There's this almost universal story for every Internet of Things project. It always starts at that one moment of like pure victory.
Mm-hmm.
You're at your desk, you have a single sensor, maybe an ESP32 or something, all wired up. You run the code and a light blinks, or, a temperature reading pops up. And for that 1 second, you feel like an absolute genius.
Oh, that's the hello world moment.
Yeah.
It's incredibly seductive. You feel like, I've done it. I have conquered the internet.
Exactly. You feel like Tony Stark in that cave.
No.
But then, fast forward a few months, your boss or maybe a client comes in and says, that's fantastic. Now let's put 5,000 of them in every factory we own across 3 continents.
And that is the exact moment where the dream just slams into the wall of reality. Because the platform that worked for one device on your desk doesn't work for a fleet. And the pricing that was, free for your prototype suddenly becomes this budget-destroying line item.
That's the wall we're trying to figure out today, the platform wall. How do you pick an IoT platform that's cheap enough for that garage phase, but powerful enough so that when you actually succeed, you don't have to tear everything down and start over?
It's the classic startup trap. You pick a tool because it's easy right now, but it has no room to grow. Or you do the opposite. You buy this massive enterprise suite on day one, and you just burn through all your cash before you've even made a sale.
So today we are decoding the pricing strategy of the Favoriot platform. We've got their full spec sheet, all their pricing tiers from the free one all the way to enterprise, and we're going to figure out exactly where the sweet spots are.
We're going to break down the math on the API limits, look at the features you only unlock in the higher tiers, and talk about a very, very interesting perpetual license option you just don't see much anymore.
And we should probably clarify one thing about the numbers we're about to use. The source material quotes everything in Malaysian ringgit, or MYR, but don't let the currency throw you. The exchange rate is about 4.5 to 1 against the US dollar. So if we say 100 ringgit, you should be thinking somewhere around $22.
Which means some of these prices are, frankly, incredibly aggressive on a global sale. We're talking enterprise-level features for what you'd pay for a streaming service.
Totally. So let's lay out the map. We've got 5 main tiers: free, light, beginner, developer, and enterprise. And then there's this whole other thing called the platform manager, which is where it gets really interesting for system integrators.
Let's start at the beginning, the bottom rung, the free plan.
Right. It says RM0, and the word they use is lifetime.
And that's a very specific word. Usually free just means free trial, free for 14 days, and then they want your credit card.
But this seems to be a permanent sandbox. The walls of that sandbox, though, are pretty tight. You get one user and exactly one device.
Just one. So this is purely for that Tony Stark moment.
Fair.
It's to prove your hardware can talk to their cloud. That's it.
And the conversation is quiet. You get a 500 daily API limit.
Which sounds like a lot until you do the math. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. If you're sending a reading every minute, you burn through your entire allowance before your morning coffee is even finished.
So you'd have to throttle it way back, maybe 1 data point every 5 minutes or so.
Or you use it for events. A door opened, a button was pressed. Something that doesn't happen continuously. But yeah, for constant monitoring, 500 is very, very tight.
Looking at the visual side, you get one dashboard, and the widgets are pretty basic. Graph, button, slider, switch.
The essentials.
Yeah.
But you said button and switch, which means it supports two-way communication.
It does, yeah. It supports manual RPC remote procedure calls.
Okay, let's just pause on RPC for a second. It's one of those acronyms people throw around, but the concept is actually pretty simple.
All it means is that the cloud can reach back down and do something to the device. It's not just the device sending data up, it's you on the dashboard clicking a button to turn a fan on.
Right. And at the free tier, that's a manual action. You have to physically click the button. You can't set up a rule that says, if the temperature goes above 30 degrees, automatically turn on the fan.
No, not on this tier. So it is a pure prototyping environment. You prove it works, but you can't build a product on it.
Which brings us to the first step up, the light plan.
The hobbyist upgrade. It jumps to RM20 a month or RM200 for the whole year. That's about $45 for a year of service.
That is basically nothing. It's the price of a couple of coffees for a year of infrastructure. And the jump in what you get is huge.
It's a big one. You go from 1 device to 50 devices.
That's a 50x increase. All of a sudden, you're not just monitoring your desk. You could monitor a small greenhouse, an office, a few delivery bikes.
The API limit also jumps from 500 to 10,000 a day.
Okay, now that's a comfortable ceiling for smaller projects. With 50 devices, that gives each one, 200 pings a day? It's about one every 7 or 8 minutes. For something like soil moisture, that's more than enough.
A feature that jumped out at me here on the free plan, notifications are just email. On Lite, they add Telegram.
I actually think that's a massive usability upgrade.
Really? Isn't a notification just a notification?
Not at all. Email is passive. It lands in your inbox, maybe a spam folder. You check it a few times a day. Telegram is instant. It pushes right to your phone. It buzzes on your watch. If a pump in your hydroponic system goes offline, you want to know right now, not tomorrow morning.
That makes a lot of sense. It turns it from a log into an actual alert. It also mentions a 1-year data grace period.
Data retention. That's the silent killer on a lot of free plans.
Yeah.
They'll only keep your data for a rolling 24 hours or maybe 7 days. If you want to show a client a 6-month trend, you're out of luck. This guarantees you have that history for a full year.
Okay, so Lite seems like the sweet spot for a serious hobbyist or a small pilot. But now we get to the tier I found, well, the most confusing, the beginner plan.
Confusing how?
The price doubles to RM40 a month, and the headline feature is unlimited devices.
Ah, the siren song of unlimited.
Exactly. I see unlimited devices and I think, perfect, I can run a huge fleet for next to nothing. But then you look closer at the API limit, it's capped at 50,000 calls a day.
And there's the filter. It's not a trap, it's a filter.
Walk me through the math here. It feels like a contradiction. How can I have unlimited devices but a very limited number of calls?
It's designed for a very specific use case. Let's say you take them at their word and you deploy 1,000 devices. You have 50,000 API credits to share across that whole fleet. That means each device gets only 50 pings per day.
50. So that's about 2 pings an hour.
Correct. Now, if you're tracking a delivery truck, 2 updates an hour is completely useless. The truck is lost between pings.
So no asset tracking on the beginner plan?
Definitely not. But what if you're monitoring, say, water meters for a utility company? That meter only needs to wake up once a day, maybe twice, and report its usage.
In that case, 50 pings a day is way more than you need.
Exactly. This plan is built for high-volume, low-bandwidth deployments, mass monitoring of things that change very slowly. It's not about how many devices you have. It's about how chatty each one is.
That's a really critical distinction. They do add some better analytics here, though. Up to 5 analytics dashboards with things like the basic statistics.
Which is useful for spotting trends across that giant fleet.
Yeah.
You know, average usage is up 10% this month. It helps you see the forest for the trees.
But there is a big limitation I noticed. Support data export only.
Yes, the classic walled garden. You can get your data out, maybe into a spreadsheet, but you can't import historical data back in.
So if I'm migrating from another platform, I start with a blank slate.
You're starting your history from day one. It's a functional silo, but it's still a silo.
Okay, so if beginner is for the low and slow crowd, where do the power users go? Because the next tier, the developer plan, the price jump is serious.
We're going from RM40 to RM300 a month.
That's a 7.5 times price increase.
It is. And this is where a lot of people would get sticker shock and say, why would I pay that much?
Well, looking at the specs, this is where the real tech company features start to appear. First, the API limit, 500,000 calls daily.
500,000. Okay, now the handcuffs are off. Now you can have a fleet of devices and they can all talk in real time.
But it's the feature list where it gets really interesting. This is the first plan where machine learning is explicitly mentioned.
And this is huge. This is the difference between, old school IoT and modern IoT.
It lists time series forecasting, supervised and unsupervised models. For someone just collecting data, why is this so important?
It's the difference between monitoring and prediction. Monitoring is looking at a dashboard and seeing a motor is overheating right now. Prediction is the platform telling you 3 days ago, based on vibration patterns, this motor is going to overheat on Tuesday.
So it's the difference between reacting to a failure and preventing it entirely.
Exactly. Predictive maintenance. That's a high-value service you can sell to your clients. You're not just selling a sensor anymore. You're selling uptime.
The widgets reflect that too. You get correlation, decompose, things like that.
Decompose is very cool. That's for breaking a signal down to see the underlying trend versus just the seasonal noise. Super useful.
Another key technical feature here, support HTTP post.
Data forwarding.
Right. Why is that worth paying for?
Because your IoT platform doesn't exist in a vacuum. That data eventually has to go somewhere else, to a billing system, a compliance engine, whatever. HTTP post lets Favoriot push that data out to your own servers or other apps in real time. It turns the platform from a bucket into a pipeline.
And unlike the beginner plan, you get data import and export, so the silo walls come down.
Correct. You can bring your history with you this time.
But there's one line item here on the developer plan that, for me, justifies the entire price jump more than anything else. It's the user management. Unlimited customer accounts.
Yes, this is the business in a box feature.
Tell me what this means, because this seems like the key for any startup.
Okay, so imagine you're an IoT company. You have 3 clients. A farm, a factory, and a school. You don't want the farmer logging in and seeing the factory's data.
Of course not. That's a massive privacy breach.
With unlimited customer accounts, you create a sub-login for the farmer. When he logs in, he sees only his farm sensors, his dashboard, his company logo. You are basically white labeling the platform for each of your customers.
So for about $65 a month, you're essentially renting the entire backend for your own multi-tenant software business.
Exactly. You're the service provider. Favoriot is just the engine. For a startup, that is an enormous accelerator. You don't need a back-end team to build a user management system from scratch. It's just there.
That completely recontextualizes that price jump. You're not just paying for more data, you're paying for a B2B infrastructure.
Precisely.
So that gets us through the main plans, but there's still the enterprise tier, which is, of course, custom pricing.
The call-list tier.
Unlimited everything, and it says customer controlled.
Which just means you get your own dedicated resources. You're not sharing anymore. But honestly, let's pivot, because the really interesting thing is this other product line.
Right. The platform manager. This is different.
This is where we go from being a user of the platform to being a manager of platforms. This is for the system integrators.
Okay, it lists 2 options, Favoriot Cloud and Enterprise Plus.
So the standard accounts we just talked about are for your project. The platform manager is for someone who manages projects for multiple other companies.
Got it. So option A, Favoriot Cloud, says it's hosted by them.
Right. It's a subscription. You get one super admin account, and you can spin up separate environments for all your different clients. It's an operating expense. You pay as you go.
So if I run a consultancy, I can see all my clients from a single dashboard, but they're all completely separate from each other.
You're the landlord of an apartment building. You have the master key, but each tenant has their own apartment with their own lock.
But then we have option B, Enterprise Plus. And the language here gets very bold. On-prem private cloud.
This is the holy grail for a lot of large organizations.
Hosted in your preferred infrastructure. And the payment model, perpetual license.
Do you have any idea how rare that is in today's world?
Everything is a subscription. My music, my movies, my software. I think my car's heated seats are a subscription.
Exactly. The SaaS model is the default. You stop paying, the service stops working. Favoriot is offering something different here. You pay once, a big lump sum for sure, but you own that software license forever.
It literally says the maximum validity of the account is lifetime. That's a powerful sentence.
It completely changes the economics. Think about a government agency or a smart city project. They work on capital expenditure budgets, CapEx. They have a big pot of money this year to build the thing. They might not have a reliable budget for a monthly subscription 5 years from now.
So they want to buy the software the same way they buy the streetlights.
Exactly. Buy it, install it on their own servers, and they're done. No recurring fees, no risk of a price hike down the road.
And that phrase, hosted in your preferred infrastructure, that solves the data sovereignty problem too.
Right. That's the other critical piece of this. You have industries like healthcare, defense, finance. They are legally forbidden from letting their data sit on a public cloud server. The law says the data has to stay in the country, or sometimes even inside their own building.
So with an on-prem license, you can take this entire platform, all the machine learning, the dashboards, everything, and drop it inside your own secure firewall.
You get the best of both worlds. You get the modern software, but with the old school control and security of your own server room.
And you still get unlimited devices and custom API limits.
Well, at that point, the limit is just physics. It's your hardware. If you want to process 1 billion API calls, you just have to buy enough servers to handle it. You're not sharing the road with anyone anymore. You own the highway.
It really feels like they've thought through the entire life cycle of a project.
They have. And they've avoided what I call the missing middle.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of platforms have a great free plan for hobbyists and a great enterprise plan for giant corporations. But if you're a mid-sized business, you're stuck. One is too simple, the other is too expensive, there's nothing in between.
But Favoriot seems to have bridged that gap.
Exactly. You start free to test it,
Right.
You move to light for your pilot, you jump to developer when you get your first real customers. And then if your business becomes huge, or if you have specific data laws, you buy the Enterprise Plus license and take the whole thing in-house.
It's a very logical progression.
It is.
One last practical note here. Since it is a Malaysian company, they list local payment options like FPX and TNG e-wallet.
Which is great for locals. But for international listeners, they do have Visa and MasterCard support.
And for the big enterprise packages, it just says contact sales.
Which is how it should be. I mean, if you're about to buy a perpetual license for an on-prem deployment, you shouldn't be doing that with a credit card in a shopping cart. You need a contract. You need an SLA. You need to talk to a person.
Good point. You don't want to accidentally buy two of them.
Definitely not.
So let's bring it all back to the listener. If you're that person with that one sensor on your desk feeling like a genius, where do you start on this ladder?
You start on the free plan, period. Don't overthink it. Make sure your hardware works. Make sure the data flows. But always keep your eye on the developer plan.
Why that one specifically?
Because that's the inflection point. That's where you stop tinkering and start building a real business. The second you need to give a customer a login or you need to predict a failure, that RM300 a month is what unlocks your ability to make money. That's where you go from having a cool thing to having a real product.
And for the IT directors or the CTOs listening?
Look very hard at Enterprise Plus. Do the 5-year total cost of ownership math. A subscription versus a one-time perpetual license. In many high-volume cases, buying the infrastructure outright pays for itself way faster than you'd think.
It's the classic rent versus buy debate, just applied to the cloud.
It is. And in a world where it feels like everyone wants to rent you your own life back, that option to just buy something is surprisingly refreshing.
It really is. It's nice to know lifetime can still mean something. So whether you're starting small on the light plan or negotiating that perpetual license, the key is just to match the plan to your stage of growth.
Don't pay for scale you don't have, but don't let a small plan choke your growth before it even starts.
And that's it for our deep dive into Favoriot's pricing. We'll catch you on the next one. Go connect something.
See you then.